What is happening here?
There's nothing left to say right now about that.
For years, fans of Sister Wives have followed the complicated lives of the Brown family. The show introduced viewers to a unique family structure built around plural marriage and centered on Kody Brown and his 4 wives. Over time, audiences watched the family grow, struggle, move across states, and eventually face the breakdown of several relationships. But even after so many seasons, new questions about the family continue to surface. One of the most recent discussions among viewers involves a very specific and sensitive topic: whether Robyn Brown receives financial assistance related to her son Dayton. Online forums, fan communities, and social media groups have been buzzing with speculation. Some fans claim that Robyn may be receiving disability benefits connected to Dayton's condition. Others insist there is no evidence to support that idea. The truth is, very little has been publicly confirmed. But the conversation itself reveals something important about the way reality television works. When a family shares so much of their personal life on camera, viewers begin to feel deeply connected to their story. Fans watch the children grow up, see the relationships evolve, and become invested in the outcomes. Over time, that investment often leads to curiosity about things that happen off-screen as well. And that's exactly what seems to be happening now. To understand why people are asking this question about Dayton, we first need to understand who he is and the role he has played in the Brown family story. Dayton is the eldest son of Robyn Brown. Long before Robyn joined the plural marriage with Kody, she was raising 3 children from a previous relationship. When she entered the Brown family, those children became part of the larger household that viewers were introduced to on Sister Wives. Later, Kody legally adopted Robyn's children, officially making them part of the Brown family. That moment was one of the most emotional storylines in the show's history. For Robyn, it represented stability and belonging for her children. For Kody, it was presented as a powerful commitment to building a united family. And for Dayton, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life. But long before that adoption happened, Dayton had already faced challenges that many viewers didn't fully understand at first. Robyn has spoken publicly about Dayton being on the autism spectrum. Autism is a neurological condition that affects how individuals process information, communicate, and interact with the world around them. The experience can vary greatly from person to person. Some individuals on the spectrum require significant support in daily life, while others are highly independent and capable of pursuing education, careers, and personal goals. In Dayton's case, viewers have seen glimpses of both independence and support from his family. He has appeared on Sister Wives in various moments over the years, sometimes participating in family discussions, and other times quietly observing the chaos that often surrounds the Brown household. Fans have watched him grow from a young boy into a young adult, navigating life in a very public family environment. And that visibility is exactly why the current conversation has gained so much attention. When viewers know that someone has a diagnosed condition like autism, they sometimes wonder whether the family receives financial assistance or support services. In many countries, including the United States where the Brown family lives, there are programs designed to help individuals with disabilities. These programs can provide financial assistance, healthcare services, educational support, or other resources depending on the individual's needs. However, qualifying for those programs involves strict eligibility requirements. Not everyone with a diagnosis automatically receives disability benefits. The severity of the condition, the individual's ability to work or attend school, and many other factors can influence whether someone qualifies. And that's where the speculation about Dayton begins. Some viewers believe that because Robyn has spoken openly about Dayton being on the autism spectrum, it's possible that he might qualify for certain forms of support. Others point out that Dayton has appeared capable of attending college and functioning independently in many ways, which might make disability benefits less likely. But here's the key point. The Brown family has never publicly confirmed whether Dayton receives disability benefits. That means much of the conversation happening online is based on assumptions rather than verified information. And that's not unusual when it comes to reality television. Shows like Sister Wives give viewers access to certain parts of the family's life, but many private details remain exactly that, private. Financial matters, medical records, and government assistance programs are rarely discussed openly on television. Even when families choose to share personal struggles, there are often limits to how much information they reveal. Still, the question continues to circulate among fans. Part of that curiosity may come from the broader financial discussions that have surrounded the Brown family for years. Throughout the series, viewers have watched the family move multiple times, purchase large homes, and manage the expenses of raising a very large group of children. At times, money has clearly been a source of stress within the family. To understand why the question about financial assistance keeps coming up among fans of Sister Wives, it's important to look more closely at Dayton himself and the journey he has taken within the Brown family. Dayton, whose full name is Dayton Brown after being adopted by Cody Brown, is the eldest son of Robyn Brown. Before Robyn joined the Brown family, she was raising 3 children on her own following the end of her previous marriage. When Robyn entered the plural marriage, those children became part of a much larger family that viewers were just beginning to understand. At the time, the Brown family already had many children from Cody's marriages to Mary Brown, Janelle Brown, and Christine Brown. Bringing Robyn and her children into the household meant adjusting to an even more complex family structure. For Dayton, that transition meant moving from a smaller household into a very large and highly public family environment. And that environment would soon become even more intense once the reality television cameras began documenting their daily lives. From the very beginning of Robyn's time on Sister Wives, she was open about the fact that Dayton had been diagnosed with autism. This was an important moment for the show, because autism is something many families deal with in private. By discussing it publicly, Robyn helped bring awareness to the challenges and realities that can come with raising a child on the autism spectrum. Autism, or autism spectrum disorder, affects individuals in different ways. Some people experience difficulties with communication and social interaction. Others may have unique ways of processing sensory information or managing routines. But it's important to remember that autism is called a spectrum for a reason. No 2 individuals experience it in exactly the same way. In Dayton's case, viewers of Sister Wives saw a young person who was thoughtful, observant, and often quieter than many of the other Brown children. He didn't always appear in the most dramatic family moments, but he was present during important milestones. Robyn often described him as intelligent and capable, and she spoke about the ways the family worked together to support him. One of the most significant events in Dayton's life occurred when Cody made the decision to legally adopt Robyn's children. For Cody, the adoption was presented as a way to solidify the bond between him and Robyn's children. For Robyn, it represented a moment of emotional security for her children. And for Dayton, it officially changed his legal status within the Brown family. Adoption can be a deeply meaningful step in blended families. It often symbolizes commitment and stability, especially when children have experienced major changes in their family structure. The adoption storyline was one of the more emotional moments shown on Sister Wives, and many viewers remember it clearly. But as Dayton grew older, viewers also began noticing that he seemed increasingly focused on building his own future. One of the most significant steps in that direction came when Dayton decided to attend college. He enrolled at a university in Arizona, which became another important turning point in the Brown family story. In fact, some fans believe that Dayton's college decision played a role in the family's move to Flagstaff. The Brown family had already moved multiple times during the series, from Utah to Las Vegas and eventually to Arizona. But when Dayton chose a school in Flagstaff, it meant that Robyn would have a strong reason to remain close to that area. For a parent, supporting a child during their transition to college can be incredibly important, especially when that child has previously needed extra support. Some viewers believe that Robyn wanted to stay close to Dayton to ensure he had the help he needed as he navigated this new stage of life. And this is where the conversation about financial assistance begins to overlap with the broader story of Dayton's independence. Because while autism can create challenges, many individuals on the spectrum are fully capable of attending college, working, and living independently. In fact, Dayton's enrollment in university suggested that he was pursuing exactly that path. This is one reason some fans question the idea that disability benefits might be involved. Government disability programs often require individuals to demonstrate that their condition significantly limits their ability to work or live independently. If someone is able to attend college and pursue higher education successfully, it can sometimes affect their eligibility for certain programs. But again, it's important to emphasize something very clearly. There is no publicly confirmed information about Dayton receiving disability benefits. Everything being discussed in fan communities is based on assumptions rather than verified information. And that's not unusual when it comes to reality television. Shows like Sister Wives give viewers access to certain parts of the family's life, but many private details remain exactly that, private. Financial matters, medical records, and government assistance programs are rarely discussed openly on television. Even when families choose to share personal struggles, there are often limits to how much information they reveal. Still, the question continues to circulate among fans. Part of that curiosity may come from the broader financial discussions that have surrounded the Brown family for years. Throughout the series, viewers have watched the family move multiple times, purchase large homes, and manage the expenses of raising a very large group of children. At times, money has clearly been a source of stress within the family. To understand why the question about financial assistance keeps coming up among fans of Sister Wives, it's important to look more closely at Dayton himself and the journey he has taken within the Brown family. Dayton, whose full name is Dayton Brown after being adopted by Cody Brown, is the eldest son of Robyn Brown. Before Robyn joined the Brown family, she was raising 3 children on her own following the end of her previous marriage. When Robyn entered the plural marriage, those children became part of a much larger family that viewers were just beginning to understand. At the time, the Brown family already had many children from Cody's marriages to Mary Brown, Janelle Brown, and Christine Brown. Bringing Robyn and her children into the household meant adjusting to an even more complex family structure. For Dayton, that transition meant moving from a smaller household into a very large and highly public family environment. And that environment would soon become even more intense once the reality television cameras began documenting their daily lives. From the very beginning of Robyn's time on Sister Wives, she was open about the fact that Dayton had been diagnosed with autism.
This was an important moment for the show, because autism is something many families deal with in private. By discussing it publicly, Robyn helped bring awareness to the challenges and realities that can come with raising a child on the autism spectrum. Autism, or autism spectrum disorder, affects individuals in different ways. Some people experience difficulties with communication and social interaction. Others may have unique ways of processing sensory information or managing routines. But it's important to remember that autism is called a spectrum for a reason. No two individuals experience it in exactly the same way. In Dayton's case, viewers of Sister Wives saw a young person who was thoughtful, observant, and often quieter than many of the other Brown children. He didn't always appear in the most dramatic family moments, but he was present during important milestones. Robyn often described him as intelligent and capable, and she spoke about the ways the family worked together to support him. One of the most significant events in Dayton's life occurred when Cody made the decision to legally adopt Robyn's children. For Cody, the adoption was presented as a way to solidify the bond between him and Robyn's children. For Robyn, it represented a moment of emotional security for her children. And for Dayton, it officially changed his legal status within the Brown family. Adoption can be a deeply meaningful step in blended families. It often symbolizes commitment and stability.
As the conversation about Dayton continues among fans of Sister Wives, one important question keeps appearing again and again. If someone is on the autism spectrum, does that automatically mean they receive disability benefits? The short answer is no. But understanding why requires a closer look at how disability support programs actually work in the United States, where the Brown family lives. Many people assume that a medical diagnosis automatically qualifies someone for financial assistance. However, the reality is far more complicated. Programs designed to help people with disabilities exist to support individuals whose conditions significantly limit their ability to work or function independently. That means eligibility isn't based solely on a diagnosis. Instead, it depends on how that diagnosis affects a person's daily life. Autism spectrum disorder can vary widely in how it affects individuals. Some people require lifelong assistance with communication, social interaction, or independent living. Others may experience challenges but still pursue education, careers, and independent lifestyles. Because autism exists on a spectrum, government agencies evaluate each case individually. This is one reason why speculation about Dayton has become such a complicated topic for fans of the show. Viewers know that Dayton has autism because Robyn Brown discussed it publicly during earlier seasons of the series. However, the show never provided detailed information about how that diagnosis affects Dayton's daily life today. Over the years, viewers have seen him participate in family activities, attend gatherings, and eventually enroll in college. Those moments suggest that he has been able to pursue many opportunities as he grew older. But again, television only shows a small portion of someone's life. Reality shows are carefully edited to highlight specific storylines. That means viewers may only see certain aspects of a person's experiences, while other details remain private. When it comes to disability benefits, there are two major federal programs in the United States that people often talk about. The first is Supplemental Security Income, often called SSI. The second is Social Security Disability Insurance, commonly known as SSDI. Both programs are designed to support individuals who cannot work due to serious disabilities. However, the requirements for qualifying are strict. For SSI, eligibility often depends on financial need as well as the severity of a disability. The program is meant for individuals with limited income and resources. SSDI, on the other hand, is typically connected to a person's work history. Individuals qualify based on work credits earned through employment. Children with disabilities can sometimes qualify for benefits through specific programs designed for minors, but those benefits are usually reassessed once the child becomes an adult. This is where things become even more complicated. When someone turns 18, their eligibility may be reviewed again under adult disability rules. Those rules focus heavily on whether the individual is capable of working or supporting themselves. If someone is attending college or preparing for employment, it can affect how their situation is evaluated. And that brings us back to Dayton. Fans of Sister Wives know that Dayton enrolled in college in Arizona. That decision became a major moment in the Brown family storyline. In fact, many viewers believe that the family's move to Flagstaff was partially influenced by Dayton's decision to attend school there. For a parent, staying close to a child who is transitioning into adulthood, especially one who may need additional support, can feel incredibly important. Some fans interpreted Robyn's actions through that lens. They saw a mother trying to remain close to her son during a major life change. Others questioned whether the move suggested that Dayton might still require significant support. But once again, there is no public confirmation that disability benefits were involved. And it's important to recognize that attending college doesn't automatically mean someone is completely independent or free from challenges. Many individuals on the autism spectrum pursue higher education with the help of support services offered by universities. These services can include academic accommodations, counseling resources, and specialized programs designed to help students succeed. In fact, many colleges have entire departments dedicated to supporting students with disabilities. That means a student can receive assistance through their school without necessarily receiving financial disability benefits from the government. This distinction is often misunderstood by viewers who are trying to piece together information from a television show. Because reality TV rarely explains these details, fans sometimes fill in the gaps themselves, and that can lead to rumors spreading quickly online. Discussions about the Brown family often become particularly intense because their lives have been so public for so long. From the beginning of Sister Wives, viewers were invited into deeply personal parts of the family's life. The show documented marriages, births, moves, arguments, and eventually the breakdown of several relationships. Over time, fans began to feel like they truly knew the Brown family. But even after years of watching them on television, there are still many parts of their lives that remain private. Financial matters are often among the most closely guarded topics. Government assistance programs involve confidential records, and families rarely discuss them publicly. So while fans continue to ask whether Robyn receives financial assistance connected to Dayton, the reality is that only the family themselves would know the full answer, and they have chosen not to share those details. That choice is understandable. Medical and financial information is deeply personal. Even for people who appear on reality television, there are boundaries that many families prefer to maintain. However, the curiosity surrounding Dayton's situation does reveal something interesting about how viewers interpret the show. Many fans are trying to understand how the Brown family manages the challenges that come with raising children in such a large and complex household. Autism adds another layer of complexity to that story. For some viewers, Robyn's openness about Dayton's diagnosis created a sense of empathy and connection. For others, it raised questions about how the family provides support behind the scenes. And because Sister Wives rarely focuses on detailed financial explanations, those questions often remain unanswered. What viewers do know is that Dayton has continued moving forward with his life. He pursued higher education, appeared occasionally on the show, and seemed to be developing his own path outside the spotlight. But as the Brown family continues to change, with several marriages ending and relationships shifting, the story of Dayton and Robyn remains one piece of a much larger puzzle. And in the next part of this story, we'll explore why financial discussions about the Brown family have always been a major topic among fans. Because long before questions about disability benefits appeared, viewers were already asking one big question: how does the Brown family actually manage their money? For years, fans of Sister Wives have been fascinated not only by the relationships inside the Brown family, but also by something else that has always raised questions: money. From the earliest seasons of the show, viewers noticed that the Brown family lived a lifestyle that seemed both complicated and expensive. After all, this was a family with one husband, multiple wives, and a very large number of children. At one point, Cody Brown had 4 wives and more than a dozen children to support. That alone would create financial challenges for most families. But the Browns also faced another major factor that changed everything. Their lives were being documented for television. When the show first began airing, many viewers were curious about how the family supported themselves before the cameras arrived. Early episodes suggested that the adults had different jobs and business ventures, but it was never entirely clear how the family managed the financial demands of such a large household. For example, some of the wives worked outside the home at different points. Janelle Brown often spoke about being one of the more career-focused members of the family, holding jobs that helped contribute to the household income. Meanwhile, Christine Brown spent many years focusing primarily on raising children and managing daily life inside the home. Mary Brown pursued business projects of her own, including later ventures connected to online sales and hospitality. And then there was Robyn Brown, who joined the family after the series had already begun to capture public attention. When Robyn entered the family, she brought 3 children with her, including Dayton. Her arrival created not only emotional adjustments within the family, but also financial ones. More children meant more expenses: housing, food, clothing, education, and everything else that comes with raising a family. For viewers watching from the outside, it sometimes felt difficult to understand how all of this was being managed. That curiosity grew even stronger when the family made a major move from Utah to Las Vegas during the early years of the show. The move was dramatic and emotional. At the time, the Browns explained that concerns about legal issues surrounding plural marriage influenced their decision to leave Utah. But relocating an entire family across state lines is not a simple or inexpensive process. Once in Las Vegas, the Browns took another major step that surprised many viewers. They began building 4 separate homes in a planned neighborhood. Each wife had her own house, located side by side in the same cul-de-sac. The plan allowed the family to remain physically close while maintaining separate living spaces. But building 4 homes at once is a massive financial undertaking. Fans quickly began asking questions. Was the family able to afford these homes because of their television income? Were there other financial sources involved? How exactly was the Brown family managing such a large real estate investment? The show occasionally addressed these questions in general terms, explaining that income from television and various business ventures contributed to their financials. However, detailed financial breakdowns were never provided. That lack of clarity led to years of speculation among fans. Every time the family made a major financial decision, whether it was buying property, moving again, or launching new business ideas, viewers began analyzing the situation. And the questions didn't stop when the family eventually left Las Vegas. Their move to Flagstaff, Arizona introduced another wave of financial curiosity. This time, the Browns purchased a large piece of land known as Coyote Pass, with the intention of eventually building homes there. But while that plan was discussed extensively on the show, construction took much longer than expected. Instead of immediately building new houses, the wives ended up living in separate rental homes around the city.
That arrangement created additional costs and logistical challenges. For viewers, the financial picture became even more confusing. How could the family afford multiple properties, land purchases, and ongoing living expenses, while also dealing with changes in their relationships? Over time, the situation became even more complicated as the family dynamic began to shift. The plural marriage structure that defined the show started to break apart. First, Christine made the decision to leave the marriage and move away. Later, Janelle's relationship with Cody also began to fall apart. Even Mary eventually acknowledged that her relationship with Cody had effectively ended. That means the original family structure that viewers had followed for years was no longer the same. And with those changes came new financial questions. If the wives were no longer sharing resources in the same way, how would their finances be handled moving forward? Would each person become financially independent? Would the plans at Coyote Pass still move forward? These questions created a new wave of speculation online. And within those discussions, Dayton's situation occasionally resurfaced as one piece of the broader puzzle. Some fans wondered whether any government assistance programs might be part of the family's overall financial picture. Others argued that the Browns likely earned enough through their television show and other ventures that such programs would be unnecessary. But once again, there is no confirmed information connecting Dayton's situation to disability benefits. What we do know is that financial pressure has often been part of the Brown family story. Raising a large family is expensive under any circumstances. Adding multiple homes, frequent moves, and the unpredictable nature of reality television income can make financial planning even more complicated. Reality TV salaries can vary widely depending on the popularity of the show and the contracts involved. While long-running programs like Sister Wives can provide significant income, that income must still be divided among multiple adults and used to support an entire household. Over time, the Browns also pursued various business opportunities outside of television. Some of those ventures were more successful than others, but the overall financial picture has never been fully explained to viewers. And that uncertainty is one reason why discussions about money, including questions about disability benefits, continue to appear in fan conversations. When people watch a reality show for many years, they begin trying to understand how every part of the story fits together. But reality TV rarely shows the full picture. There are always details happening behind the scenes that audiences never see. And in the case of the Brown family, that behind-the-scenes reality may be far more complicated than anyone watching the show can fully understand. As we move into the next part of the story, we're going to look at another factor that has shaped the public's perception of the family: how reality TV editing can influence what viewers believe they know about the Browns. Because sometimes the biggest twists in reality TV don't happen inside the family at all. They happen in the editing room.
When people watch Sister Wives, it can sometimes feel like they are seeing every part of the Brown family's life. After all, the series has followed the family for many years, capturing major milestones, emotional arguments, and deeply personal conversations. But reality television is never exactly what it appears to be. Behind every episode is a process of filming, editing, and storytelling that shapes what viewers ultimately see on screen. That doesn't mean the events themselves are fake. The emotions, relationships, and struggles experienced by the family are very real. However, the way those moments are presented is carefully organized to create a compelling narrative for television. And that editing process can play a huge role in how viewers interpret the lives of people like Robyn Brown and her son Dayton. For example, when a show like Sister Wives films a season, the cameras often capture hundreds of hours of footage. Producers then take that massive amount of material and condense it into episodes that may only be 40 or 45 minutes long. That means a huge amount of context never makes it to the screen. Small conversations, quiet family moments, and everyday routines may be left out entirely. Instead, editors focus on moments that drive the story forward. Conflict, emotional reactions, and major decisions tend to receive the most attention because they keep viewers engaged. Over time, this storytelling style can shape how audiences perceive each member of the family. Some people may appear more outspoken because their strongest moments are highlighted. Others may seem quieter or more mysterious simply because fewer scenes feature them. Dayton has often fallen into that second category. Compared to some of the more outspoken Brown family members, Dayton has appeared less frequently in major storylines. He has been present in the show for many years, but many of his personal experiences have remained mostly private. Part of that may be intentional. Parents often try to protect their children's privacy, especially when those children have faced unique challenges growing up. Robyn has occasionally spoken about Dayton's autism on the show, but those conversations have usually been brief. They provided enough information to explain his diagnosis, but didn't go deeply into every detail of his life. And that decision may have been deliberate. When families appear on reality television, they must constantly balance openness with privacy. Viewers may feel curious about every part of the family's life, but some topics remain deeply personal. Medical conditions, educational support services, and financial assistance programs often fall into that category. So when fans start asking questions about whether Dayton receives disability benefits, it's possible that the answer simply hasn't been shared publicly. Not because there is something dramatic to hide, but because it's private information. But privacy doesn't always stop speculation. Reality television audiences are naturally curious. When people watch the same family for years, they begin noticing small details and trying to understand the bigger picture. Sometimes that curiosity leads to thoughtful discussions about parenting, relationships, and personal growth. Other times, it leads to rumors that spread quickly through online communities. For the Brown family, the internet has become a major place where fans debate every aspect of the show. Online forums, social media platforms, and fan pages regularly analyze new episodes, past storylines, and even brief moments that appeared on screen years ago. Every comment, facial expression, or family decision can become the subject of a lengthy discussion. And because Dayton's role in the show has often been quieter, fans sometimes try to fill in the missing pieces themselves. That's how questions about things like disability benefits begin circulating. Someone raises the possibility, others respond with their own interpretations, and before long, the idea spreads through multiple fan groups. But without direct confirmation from the family, those discussions remain speculation. Another factor that influences how viewers interpret the Brown family is the way each season focuses on different storylines. Some seasons emphasize relationship struggles between the adults. Others focus on moves, business ventures, or the children growing up and leaving home. When the cameras follow a specific storyline, other aspects of the family's life receive less attention. For example, when the show documented the family's move to Flagstaff, much of the focus was on the logistical and emotional challenges of relocating. The story centered on housing decisions, property purchases, and disagreements about the future. While Dayton's college plans were mentioned during that time, the show didn't dedicate large segments to exploring his daily life as a student. That means viewers were left with only small glimpses of what that transition looked like for him. Those limited glimpses can make it difficult for audiences to fully understand someone's situation, and that uncertainty is often where speculation begins. It's also important to remember that reality television participants sometimes change how much of their lives they are willing to share as time goes on. After years in the spotlight, some families become more cautious about discussing certain topics. They may choose to keep medical information, financial details, or personal struggles off camera. If that happens, viewers might notice that certain subjects simply stop appearing on the show. But the absence of information doesn't necessarily mean something unusual is happening. It may simply reflect a decision to protect personal boundaries. For Dayton and Robyn, that boundary may include keeping certain aspects of his life private as he moves further into adulthood. After all, Dayton is no longer the young child viewers first met when Robyn joined the family. He is now an adult building his own future. And with adulthood often comes the desire for greater privacy and independence. Still, the curiosity from fans continues. People who have followed the Brown family for years feel invested in their story. They want to understand what is happening behind the scenes and how each member of the family is doing today. But as we move into the next part of this story, another important question begins to emerge. If Dayton has been working towards independence through education and adulthood, what does that mean for his future and for Robyn's role as a parent? Because the transition from childhood support to adult independence is one of the biggest challenges many families face. As the years passed on Sister Wives, one thing slowly began to change within the Brown family. The children who viewers once watched growing up were becoming adults. For many fans, this shift created a completely different perspective on the show. Early seasons focused heavily on parenting, homeschooling, and the daily challenges of raising a large group of kids. But as time moved forward, those same children started graduating, leaving home, and building their own lives. And for Robyn Brown, that transition carried a particularly emotional weight when it came to her oldest son, Dayton. Dayton had grown up largely in the public eye. When Robyn first joined the Brown family, viewers were introduced to him as a young boy, adjusting to a new household and a new father figure in Cody Brown. Over the years, audiences watched him navigate family gatherings, school milestones, and eventually the process of preparing for adulthood. But Dayton's journey was unique in one important way. Robyn had shared early on that he was on the autism spectrum. For many parents, raising a child with autism comes with additional layers of concern about the future. Questions about independence, education, and career opportunities can feel especially important. And as Dayton grew older, viewers began noticing moments that suggested he was working towards building that independence. One of the biggest signs of this came when Dayton decided to attend college. Higher education is a major step for any young adult. It often represents the beginning of a new chapter, one where individuals start making more decisions on their own and exploring their personal goals. For Dayton, enrolling in college showed that he was ready to pursue that next stage. He attended a university in Arizona, which became an important turning point not only for him, but also for the Brown family as a whole. In fact, many fans believe that Dayton's decision to attend school in Flagstaff played a role in the family's move to the area. The Browns had previously been living in Las Vegas, where they had built 4 homes in the same neighborhood. Moving again meant leaving behind a location that had taken years to establish. But when Dayton chose a school in Flagstaff, the possibility of relocating suddenly made more sense for some members of the family. From Robyn's perspective, staying close to Dayton during his early years in college may have felt like the best way to support him. Transitioning to college life can be challenging for any student. New environments, academic expectations, and social dynamics can create stress even for individuals who have never faced developmental challenges. For someone on the autism spectrum, those adjustments can sometimes require additional support. Many universities recognize this and offer programs specifically designed to help students with disabilities succeed. These programs may include academic accommodations, counseling services, and specialized advisors who help students navigate campus life.
But even with those resources available, having family nearby can make a huge difference. Robyn has often been portrayed on the show as a very protective and attentive parent. Throughout the series, she has spoken about wanting to ensure that her children feel secure and supported. For some viewers, that protective instinct became especially noticeable when it came to Dayton. When the family discussed moving to Flagstaff, some fans believed Robyn's desire to stay close to Dayton was one of the strongest motivations behind the decision. Of course, moving an entire family because one child is attending college might sound unusual to some people, but in large families, decisions often affect everyone. And within the Brown family structure, each wife had her own priorities and concerns. While Robyn may have felt strongly about remaining close to Dayton, the other wives were also dealing with their own personal goals and challenges. The move to Flagstaff ultimately became one of the most controversial decisions the family made. The transition created financial strain, housing complications, and disagreements among the adults. Some viewers felt that the move disrupted a relatively stable situation the family had built in Las Vegas. Others believed it represented a natural evolution as the children began leaving home and pursuing their own paths. But regardless of how fans interpreted the move, it highlighted an important moment in Dayton's life. He was stepping into adulthood. That transition raises another interesting point in the conversation about disability benefits. Many people assume that individuals with autism will always depend heavily on their families. But in reality, many people on the spectrum go on to live independent and successful lives. Some pursue higher education, build careers, and develop strong social networks. Others may require ongoing support but still achieve a significant level of independence. The key factor is that every individual's experience with autism is different. Dayton's decision to attend college suggested that he was working towards building his own future. And that possibility changes how many people view the speculation about disability benefits. Again, there is no public confirmation about Dayton receiving those benefits, but his educational path suggests that he was focused on long-term independence rather than permanent reliance on support programs. For Robyn, watching her son move into adulthood likely brought a mixture of pride and worry. Parents often feel both emotions when their children begin building lives of their own. They want to see their children succeed, but they also recognize that independence means letting go of some control. That transition can be especially emotional when a child has faced developmental challenges. Throughout Sister Wives, Robyn has often expressed deep concern about protecting her children from difficulties. As Dayton grew older, that protective instinct may have evolved into a desire to remain close while still encouraging him to pursue his own goals. But as viewers continued to follow the Brown family story, another major change was happening at the same time. The relationships between the adults were beginning to fall apart. Marriages that once defined the entire structure of the show were starting to collapse. And those changes would soon reshape the family in ways that no one could have predicted. In the next part of this story, we'll look at how the breakup of the Brown family affected the lives of the children, including Dayton, and why those changes added another layer to the questions fans continue to ask today.
For most of its run, Sister Wives told the story of a family trying to prove that plural marriage could work. The central figure, Cody Brown, often described his vision of a large, united household where multiple wives and many children would support each other. For a while, that idea seemed to hold together. Viewers watched the family move from Utah to Las Vegas, build homes next to each other, and attempt to maintain a sense of unity despite the obvious challenges of plural marriage. The children grew up together, sharing holidays, family dinners, and milestones. But over time, cracks in that structure became harder to ignore. Small disagreements turned into deeper conflicts. Emotional distance between Cody and some of his wives became more visible with each passing season. Eventually, the situation reached a breaking point. The first major shift came when Christine Brown made a decision that shocked many viewers. She chose to leave the marriage entirely. Christine had been part of the Brown family for decades. She raised many of the children, played a major role in maintaining family traditions, and often served as one of the emotional centers of the household. But as the years passed, she began expressing increasing frustration with her relationship with Cody. During later seasons of the show, viewers saw conversations where Christine spoke openly about feeling neglected and unfulfilled. The situation eventually reached a point where she decided she could no longer continue in the marriage. Her departure marked a huge turning point in the story of the Brown family. For the first time since the show began, one of the wives had completely stepped away from the plural marriage structure. Not long after Christine's exit, the situation became even more complicated. Janelle Brown also began experiencing serious tension in her relationship with Cody. Janelle had often been seen as one of the more practical and independent members of the family. She focused heavily on work and maintaining stability for her children. But disagreements between her and Cody began to intensify, particularly around issues involving family loyalty and communication. Eventually, their relationship also reached a breaking point. Although their situation unfolded differently from Christine's, it became clear that their marriage was no longer functioning in the way it once had. That left only 2 of the original relationships still technically intact, but even that wasn't quite accurate. Mary Brown had already been in a complicated and distant relationship with Cody for years. While they remained legally connected for a long time, their emotional bond had largely faded. Mary had spent several seasons trying to rebuild that connection, but the effort rarely seemed to lead to real progress. Eventually, she also acknowledged that the marriage had effectively come to an end. By that point, the structure that had defined a Brown family for so long had completely changed. 3 of the 4 marriages were over. That meant Cody was no longer leading the large plural household that the show originally introduced to viewers. Instead, he was living primarily with his remaining wife, Robyn Brown. This shift dramatically changed the family dynamic. In earlier seasons, the children grew up moving between multiple homes and interacting regularly with different mothers and siblings. But as the marriages ended, the sense of a shared household began to fade. Some of the adult children had already moved away to start their own lives. Others found themselves adjusting to a new reality where the family structure they grew up with no longer existed. For Dayton, this transformation happened at the same time he was entering adulthood. That meant his transition to college and independence was unfolding during one of the most unstable periods in the family's history. Family breakups can be difficult for anyone, but when they happen in a household with so many relationships involved, the emotional impact can be especially complex. Children who grew up seeing multiple parents and siblings in close connection suddenly had to adapt to a very different situation. In Dayton's case, his immediate household remained centered around Robyn and Cody, but the broader family network that once surrounded them was changing rapidly. Some of the siblings he grew up with were now living far away. Others were navigating their own relationships with their parents as tensions between the adults increased. These changes inevitably shaped the environment around Dayton as he continued moving forward with his education and personal life. For viewers watching from the outside, the breakup of the Brown family created a wave of new questions. How would the family move forward now that the plural marriage structure had largely dissolved? What would happen to the property they had planned to develop together? And how would the relationships between the children evolve as the adults separated? Within those conversations, speculation about finances and support systems continued to appear. Some fans wondered whether the changing family structure would affect how resources were shared. Others questioned whether certain members of the family might need additional support as they adjusted to the new reality. But just as before, much of that discussion remained speculation. The Brown family rarely shares detailed financial information on the show. Instead, viewers are left to interpret the situation based on what appears on screen. What we do know is that the collapse of the plural marriage structure changed the entire direction of the family's story. The show that once focused on unity and cooperation now often explores the aftermath of separation and personal independence. And as each member of the family begins building a new life outside the original structure, the story continues evolving in unexpected ways. In the next part of this discussion, we'll look at how fans themselves have shaped the conversation around the Brown family, especially when it comes to rumors, online theories, and the questions that continue circulating about Dayton and Robyn today. As the story of the Brown family continued unfolding on Sister Wives, something else was happening at the same time. Fans were beginning to analyze every detail of the show online. Reality television has always inspired discussion, but in the age of social media and online forums, those discussions have grown far more intense. Today, viewers don't just watch an episode and move on. Instead, they gather in online communities where every moment of the show is dissected and debated. And when it comes to the Brown family, those debates can become incredibly detailed. Over the years, fans have created entire forums, discussion threads, and social media groups dedicated to analyzing the lives of the Browns. They talk about relationships, financial decisions, parenting styles, and even brief moments that appear in the background of an episode. Sometimes these discussions are supportive, other times they are critical. But one thing is certain, the Brown family has become one of the most talked about reality TV families online. Among those discussions, one topic that occasionally resurfaces is the question about whether Robyn Brown receives disability benefits connected to her son Dayton. It's important to understand how these kinds of rumors often begin. In many cases, a single comment or question posted online can quickly grow into a full conversation. Someone might notice that Dayton was mentioned as being on the autism spectrum in earlier seasons of the show. Another person might mention that some families receive financial support when caring for children with disabilities. From there, a theory begins forming. People start asking questions like, could Dayton qualify for disability benefits? Does Robyn receive financial support from a government program? Has the show ever confirmed anything about this? Because the series itself never provides a clear answer, the conversation continues to expand. Some fans claim they have seen information suggesting benefits might exist. Others argue that there is no evidence at all. Over time, the theory spreads across multiple platforms. But here's the important part. Internet discussions are not the same as verified facts. In reality television fandoms, speculation often grows quickly because viewers feel invested in the people they watch on screen. When someone follows a show for many years, they start feeling like they truly know the cast members. That emotional connection can make fans curious about every aspect of the family's life. However, curiosity doesn't always lead to accurate conclusions.
Many online discussions rely on small pieces of information that may be incomplete or misunderstood. For example, viewers may interpret a brief comment from an episode as evidence of something much larger. Other times, fans simply try to fill in gaps left by the show's editing. Because the series only shows certain moments from the family's life, there are many details that remain unknown to the public. Those gaps often become the foundation for internet theories. The situation involving Dayton is a good example of how this process works. Viewers know a few key facts. They know that Dayton is the son of Robyn. They know that he was diagnosed with autism. They know that he eventually attended college in Arizona. But beyond those points, much of his life has remained private. That privacy leaves room for speculation. Some fans assume that because Dayton has autism, there must be government assistance involved. Others point out that many individuals on the autism spectrum lead independent lives and do not rely on disability benefits at all. Without confirmation from the family, both sides are essentially making educated guesses. Another reason these theories continue circulating is the strong opinions fans have about different members of the Brown family. Over the years, some viewers have become particularly critical of Robyn. They believe that her relationship with Kody Brown played a major role in the breakdown of the other marriages. Because of that perception, certain fans sometimes interpret events involving Robyn in a negative way. When discussions about finances arise, those same viewers may assume the worst. Others defend Robyn, arguing that the criticism directed toward her is often unfair. They believe she has simply been navigating a complicated family situation that was already under strain long before she joined. These differing perspectives often shape how fans interpret rumors. For some viewers, the idea that Robyn might receive disability benefits becomes part of a larger narrative about the family's finances. For others, the rumor feels like an invasion of privacy that shouldn't be discussed without clear evidence. This kind of debate is extremely common in reality television fandoms. The more popular a show becomes, the more its audience begins to analyze every detail. In many cases, the cast members themselves are aware that these discussions are happening. Some reality TV stars choose to address rumors directly on social media or in interviews. Others prefer to ignore them entirely. The Brown family has generally taken the second approach. While they occasionally respond to major controversies, many of the smaller rumors circulating online are never addressed publicly. That silence can sometimes cause speculation to grow even further. When fans don't receive a clear answer, they continue debating the possibilities. But it's also possible that the family simply sees these questions as private matters that don't require a public response. Medical information, financial assistance programs, and personal family decisions often fall into that category. Even for people who live part of their lives on television, there are limits to what they may want to share. And that brings us to an important point in this story. While internet theories can be entertaining for fans to discuss, they rarely provide a complete or accurate picture of someone's life. The reality behind the scenes is almost always more complex than what appears in online discussions. For Dayton and Robyn, the truth about their personal situation remains largely private. But the ongoing conversation about it reveals something interesting about the way audiences interact with reality television. Viewers don't just watch these stories, they actively participate in interpreting them. And sometimes, that interpretation can become almost as dramatic as the show itself. In the next part of this story, we'll look at how the Brown family's future may continue evolving, and why Dayton's path into adulthood could shape the next chapter of their lives in ways fans may not expect.
As the Brown family continues to evolve after years in the spotlight, many fans of Sister Wives have started wondering what the future holds for the younger members of the family. While much of the recent attention has focused on the marriages that ended and the changing relationship dynamics between the adults, another important story has been quietly unfolding in the background: the next chapter of the Brown children's lives. For Dayton, the eldest son of Robyn Brown, the future represents something very different from the environment he grew up in. When viewers first met him, he was a young boy adjusting to a new family structure after Robyn joined the plural marriage with Kody Brown. At that time, the Brown household was still functioning as a large, interconnected family. Multiple homes, shared parenting responsibilities, and frequent family gatherings were part of daily life. But as the years passed, that structure began to change dramatically. With the departures of Christine Brown, Janelle Brown, and eventually the separation from Mary Brown, the original idea of a united plural family largely disappeared. What remained was a much smaller household centered mainly around Kody, Robyn, and the children still living with them. For Dayton, this meant that his transition into adulthood was happening during a period of major change within the family. And that transition raises an important question: what direction might his life take next? One of the most encouraging signs for many viewers was Dayton's decision to attend college. Higher education can open doors to new opportunities, personal growth, and career possibilities. For someone who grew up on a reality television show, it also offers the chance to build an identity outside of the public spotlight. Many children of reality TV families eventually choose to step away from the cameras as they grow older. They pursue careers, relationships, and personal goals that have little to do with the shows their families once starred in. Dayton may very well be following that path. His college experience likely provided opportunities to develop independence, build friendships, and explore interests beyond the environment of a large television family. For individuals on the autism spectrum, college can be both exciting and challenging. Universities often provide specialized support programs that help students manage academic expectations, social situations, and daily routines. These programs are designed to ensure that students with different learning styles have the resources they need to succeed. If Dayton has been using those resources, it could help him develop the skills necessary for long-term independence. And that possibility changes the entire tone of the conversation surrounding him. Instead of focusing on speculation about disability benefits or financial support, the story becomes one of personal growth and future potential. Many people with autism go on to build successful careers in fields that value attention to detail, analytical thinking, and creative problem solving. Some pursue careers in technology, research, education, or business. Others follow completely different paths based on their personal passions and interests. Because Dayton has maintained a relatively low public profile compared to some members of the Brown family, viewers know very little about his long-term career goals. That privacy may be intentional. Growing up in front of television cameras can make it difficult for young adults to establish their own identities. By stepping back from the spotlight, Dayton may be giving himself the space needed to build a future that belongs entirely to him. For Robyn, watching that process unfold is likely both exciting and emotional. Parents often spend years guiding their children through childhood, only to realize that adulthood arrives faster than expected. Letting go of that constant role as a protector can be challenging. Throughout the series, Robyn has often been portrayed as a very devoted and protective mother. Her concern for Dayton's well-being was clear in earlier seasons, when she discussed his autism diagnosis and the challenges he faced growing up. But as he continues moving forward in life, Robyn's role may gradually shift from constant supervision to supportive encouragement. That transition is something many families experience. The goal is always to help children become independent adults, while still knowing they have a strong support system behind them. For Dayton, that support likely includes both Robyn and Cody, as well as his siblings. Even though the larger plural marriage structure has changed, family bonds between siblings often remain strong. Many of the Brown children still stay connected through visits, social media interactions, and shared experiences from growing up together. Those relationships can provide stability during times of change. And there is no doubt that the Brown family has gone through significant changes in recent years. The collapse of the plural marriage structure forced many members of the family to redefine their roles and priorities. For some, that meant moving to new cities or focusing on individual careers. For others, it meant rebuilding relationships outside the original family framework. In Dayton's case, the next chapter of his life may involve stepping even further away from the public spotlight. He could pursue a professional career, continue his education, or explore opportunities that have nothing to do with television. And that might ultimately be the healthiest path forward. After spending much of his childhood connected to a highly public reality show, having the freedom to build a private life could be incredibly valuable. But for fans of Sister Wives, the curiosity will likely remain. Viewers who have followed the Brown family for more than a decade feel invested in the outcomes of each person's journey. They want to know how the children are doing, what careers they pursue, and how their lives evolve beyond the show. Still, the most important part of Dayton's future may be something that audiences never see on camera. It may be the quiet process of becoming an independent adult, discovering personal strengths, and building a life defined by his own choices. And as we reach the final part of this story, we'll take a step back and look at the bigger picture, why the question about disability benefits sparked such a strong reaction from fans, and what it ultimately reveals about the way reality television shapes public curiosity. After years of watching Sister Wives, fans have developed a deep connection to the Brown family. Viewers have seen relationships begin, children grow up, homes built and sold, and eventually the collapse of the plural marriage structure that once defined the entire show. Because audiences have followed this family for so long, it's natural that curiosity about their lives continues even beyond what appears on television. And that curiosity is exactly what sparked the question that started this entire discussion, whether Robyn Brown receives a disability check connected to her son Dayton. At first glance, it might seem like a simple financial question, but in reality, the topic reveals something much larger about the relationship between reality television stars and the audiences who follow them. When viewers watch a show for many years, they begin to feel like they truly know the people involved. They watch children grow up, witness emotional struggles, and celebrate milestones alongside the family. Over time, that experience can create a sense of familiarity that feels almost personal. Fans begin asking questions not only about what happens on screen, but also about the parts of life that happen behind the scenes. In the case of Dayton, viewers know several important facts. They know that he is the son of Robyn. They know that he was diagnosed with autism, something Robyn spoke about in earlier seasons of the series.
They also know that he eventually pursued college and began stepping into adulthood. Those pieces of information are real, but they are also incomplete. Reality television rarely provides a full picture of someone's life. Episodes are edited, storylines are condensed, and many personal details are intentionally kept private. Medical information, financial assistance programs, and educational support services are among the most private topics families deal with. Even families who appear on television often choose to keep those details confidential. And that appears to be the case here. There has never been any official confirmation that Dayton receives disability benefits. There has also been no statement suggesting that such benefits are part of the Brown family's finances. What exists instead is a collection of online conversations, fan theories, and speculation that has grown over time. That doesn't mean the question itself is unreasonable. Many families raising children with developmental conditions do rely on various forms of support. Government programs, educational services, and community resources are designed to help individuals with disabilities live fulfilling lives. But those programs operate under strict guidelines, and eligibility varies widely depending on a person's circumstances. Without access to private information, it's impossible for viewers to know whether Dayton's situation fits within those guidelines. And ultimately, that may not be information the family ever chooses to share. For Dayton himself, the most important part of the story may have nothing to do with internet rumors at all. His journey has been one of growth and transition. He entered the Brown family as a young boy adjusting to a completely new household. He grew up in front of cameras, while the family navigated the challenges of plural marriage. He later stepped into adulthood during a time when the family structure itself was changing dramatically. And through all of that, he appears to be working toward building a life of his own. For many viewers, that may be the most meaningful part of the story. The children of the Brown family are no longer just background characters in a reality show. They are adults shaping their own futures, pursuing education, careers, and personal goals. Some have chosen to remain connected to the show. Others have stepped away from the spotlight to focus on private lives. Dayton may ultimately fall into that second category. If he does, it would not be surprising. Growing up on reality television can be both exciting and challenging, and many people eventually decide they prefer a quieter path. For Robyn, watching that journey likely brings the same emotions and experience as their children grow older. Pride, concern, hope, and uncertainty often exist at the same time. Parents want to see their children succeed, but they also recognize that adulthood means allowing them to make their own decisions. That balance between support and independence is something families everywhere must navigate. And while the Brown family's life has been unusually public, some parts of that process remain deeply personal. So in the end, the question about disability benefits may say more about the audience than it does about the family itself. It reflects how invested viewers have become in the lives of the people they've watched for so many years. It shows how reality television can blur the line between entertainment and real life. But it also reminds us that even reality television stars deserve a level of privacy. There will always be aspects of their lives that remain outside the reach of cameras and public discussion. And perhaps that's exactly how it should be. Because beyond the speculation and the online debates, the most important part of Dayton's story is still unfolding. It's the story of a young man moving forward into adulthood, discovering who he is, and building a life that belongs entirely to him.